Welcome to Gabbin' Games for Friday, October 1st. I hope you guys are having a great day. Whatever. Let's think. Do I hope you're, well, sure. I hope you're having a great day. It's one of those things you say, have a nice day, and you got to think about it. No, I hope you're having a great day. I really do. Jaffe, what's your impressions of Hot Wheels Unleashed, says Andy Lee. I adore it. When I started playing Hot Wheels the other night, I did it on stream, and I was just like, I liked it a little bit, but I didn't get the big deal. And I stuck with it because people on the stream had said, hey man, this gets better and the tracks get better. And I was playing Spazbo, and Spaz and I were racing, and we picked some really shitty tracks at the beginning, and I was falling off constantly. But over the course of about 4 or 5 hours, I just fell in love with it. I love it. It comes highly recommended. We're going to be playing it on an up-and-coming game night. I will tell you, not only is the game really cool, but the editor stuff is cool. There's the track editor, and then there's also editing the vehicles. And I have seen people are making Twisted Metal vehicles. I drove an ambulance today that was just covered with blood and body parts. I mean, they're really, really clever models out there a couple of days. So it's pretty fucking good. Oh, okay, so Spazbo says the track we first raced on is one of the last tracks in the game. Yeah, it's like giving somebody access to Mario Kart and saying, here's Rainbow Road before they've ever fucking played anything, right? And that's what it was like. Let's talk about what may very well be the beginning rumblings of PlayStation's answer to Game Pass. I think it's good. I think it's a good fucking move on the part of Sony. And this isn't the first time they've played around with this, but it is the first time they've done it for free, and they've also done it without making you a PS Plus member. So the news broke today that people were starting to get emails from Sony saying we're introducing game trials, and they're only doing it with 2 right now. Death Stranding Director's Cut, which I wish I would have known before I fucking paid, $70 for it, and Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which is a great game. Now, these are free. You don't have to pay a goddamn dime, is my understanding. If you're in on this endeavor, and I don't know how you get an email. I haven't checked my email. Maybe I haven't gotten one. It says, have you ever wanted to try some of the most popular games from PlayStation Studios before committing? Well, now you can. Get a taste of Death Stranding Director's Cut and Sackboy: Big Adventure until October 28th. Head over to PS Store and download your chosen game trial. Once you hit download, this is a little weird, the timer starts. You only get the games for 6 hours for Death Stranding and 5 hours for Sackboy. I understand why they're different games have different limits. It's kind of weird, though, that limit is baked into when you start the download. So if you start the download, once you hit download, you'll get a limited amount of time to play the game, whether you play it or not. Once the time is up, you'll need to purchase the full game. So I don't even think it's like you download it and then you can't let it sit on your hard drive for 2 weeks. You have to play it right away. Pedro says, yeah, time demos. What does this have to do with Game Pass? It has everything to do with possibly competing with Game Pass, in the sense that so what are they doing this for, right? If you guys remember way back in the day, PlayStation Network had rentals, which I always thought was smart, but it never really made any sense to me why it didn't catch on. But you were able to spend like $4 to rent a game. Now, I don't think they were the new games. Maybe that was why, but who knows? And I agree with some of you guys in the chat. It's like, yeah, if you have shitty internet, this isn't for you. And my guess is this is probably not going to be, they're probably testing a number of things. This is obviously a pilot program. This is not ready for prime time yet. That's why it's not available for everyone. My guess is this is going to be something that's going to be tied to PS Plus, PS Now, something like that. But right now they're just maybe trying to see what people do, how they respond to it. But as for how it's a response to Game Pass, I mean, you're talking about first-party games. You're basically giving players who do find value in Game Pass, which is the ability to play these brand new games from first party day one. You're giving them that ability. I mean, Death Stranding obviously is the closest we got to day one. That just came out last week. You're giving them that ability, but it's obviously it's neutered a bit, but we're going to give you a little bit of what you like about Game Pass, and we're trying to kind of split the difference. I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it might be a bad idea for them. I think Death Stranding is one of those games that people say doesn't really get good for a while. I think this is, I had a video about this recently, and some people were kind of annoyed with me about it, but I'm sorry I was right, and I'm still right about this, which is the completion rate on subservice games tends to be lower than if you purchase a game, because the motivation isn't there to keep playing if you don't have any financial investment. So the only thing that keeps you playing is it really good? Is it really compelling? So with Sackboy, which I think is a great game, I wonder, though, if somebody said, okay, you've played for 4.5 hours, Jaffe, because let's say it took me 30 minutes to download and it's a 5-hour limit, I wonder if I would just go, I'm good. It's like, give us $60 now. I'm like, I'm good. Right? I think there's a real danger in not seeing a conversion to people who purchase, but that would be my only concern. There, JB says meh. What do you mean meh? I will never understand gamers. How is this meh? Let's assume for the moment this becomes the way they do things. Let's assume for the moment a day, a week, the same day, a first-party game comes out. And let's say the first-party game is Spider-Man 2. Well, fucking play it for free for 4 or 5 hours. If you love it, buy it. If you don't. How is that meh? How is that not the most consumer-friendly thing you've ever heard of in your goddamn life? I don't understand gamers. I don't understand them. Yeah, Star-Lord says there's no downside to this at all. I don't understand. They're probably just trying to get people to engage in the $70 game, says Pedro. Most don't take the leap because of doubts, right? But isn't that great? Isn't that fantastic? And so, yes, it's not Game Pass, but it allows a bit of the Game Pass. It allows Sony to scratch the Game Pass itch a little bit, especially if they say, look, PS Now, PS Plus, and game trials all in one for the whatever the prices they charge for it, which means every single first-party game you're going to get 4 or 5 hours to 6 hours of gameplay time. Come on, man. Star-Lord says it's better than buying a full-price game, not liking it, and not being able to get a refund. Absolutely. 150%. I haven't gone back to Deathloop, not because I don't like it, just because I've so many other games, but it's like, why in the fuck can't... I think what it is some gamers are just afraid of change. Anything that's outside of what they're used to, they just don't like it. They just want nothing to do with it. Hoodrich902, thank you, buddy. He just joined the Diet Soda Soldiers. He, of course, gets a smoke of the bubbly. That doesn't make sense. You don't smoke the bubbly, but you do in my world, sir. There you go. Have some dope and some champagne on me, sir. Welcome, Hoodrich, to the Diet Soda Soldiers. Welcome to the chat. Welcome to the stream. I appreciate you being part of our little community of fucksticks. Thank you. Dylan in the details. Been here for 4 months. He says, Jaffe, time flies. It sure does, sir. It's not meh. It is not meh. This is a good thing. This is good for Sony. This is a good idea. Jaffe, this has happened before. If you had PS Plus, it came with trials. I understand that. But it hasn't happened in a while, and it hasn't happened, if I recall, since Game Pass came on the scene, has it? Like, remember, they started with rentals, but PS Plus had trials, but I don't remember, Hoodrich, if PS Plus had trials of brand new games. Sackboy would fit, but Death Stranding Director's Cut? Are you telling me I don't remember this? The PS Plus had trials of games that you could download that were out day one? And by the way, this, so you know, is not currently for PS Plus members. This is for anyone who gets the email. And a lot of people are getting the email that are not PS Plus. So they're testing something out. Brian E. says it's a new concept from Sony. If it benefits, it'll take off. They'll add more games. Right, of course. The real question is that I'm sure this will change. Maybe it's because of the trial, but it is really weird that the timer starts the minute you hit download. It's also a little bit weird that the timer starts instantly without waiting for you to hit play. Like on a movie, you can download it and you have it for 30 days. This is like you download it and it immediately starts. And if you download it at 2 a.m, you wake up and it's gone. That's a little fucking weird. That's a little weird. Pedro says you should make it streamable. I think they should have that as an option. I think that would be great. I wouldn't make it only streamable, because streaming, as much as I have success with it with my internet, a lot of people don't. I think this would kind of kill whatever they're trying to test with this. And let me ask you real quick, and we'll move on. Some of you guys are saying this isn't a Game Pass killer. Well, okay, then why would they be doing it then, right? This is not an initiative they're rolling out. This is clearly something that they are testing and wanting to see if it's going to be a go or not. Why do this then? Like, what is Sony's next first-party game that's coming out? Is it Gran Turismo is in February or something? I mean, I don't know about you, but if Gran Turismo came out and as part of PS Plus, or if I had to pay an extra $4 a month for PS Plus, and it meant I could play these games, and they could maybe even have third-party games and shit, I'd be down with that. I'd totally be down with that. Who played the time demo of Resident Evil Village? I think people liked it, says Jojo D. I mean, nobody likes a time demo. They suck. But this doesn't really feel like it's a demo. This doesn't cost the developer anything to really put together. They don't have to create anything. I don't think Sony can sustain a Game Pass model, says Rathy. Microsoft can make a loss for a decade and still be in profit. Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. This might be what they need, because I can tell you, for me, this is really appealing. I like this idea, and this couldn't be more customer friendly. I mean, this is dangerous for them. I bet they're not going to get high conversion. They'll probably get higher conversion with Sackboy than with Death Stranding. I think Death Stranding is a really interesting. Like, whenever we would do these kind of A/B testing at Sony, and when I was other companies working for Sony or with the contract with Sony, there would be a reason. Like, there's a reason Sackboy and Death Stranding were chosen. Like, they're trying to suss out some data from people, and these two titles they feel will get them that data that makes the most sense. Death Stranding, obviously, is probably a big part of it is it's new, but I also look at it's not a very easy entry level for people. So, but so I could see people not converting with Death Stranding, but I hope that doesn't turn that into this isn't working. Horizon Forbidden West, right? If Horizon Forbidden West is their next game coming out, thank you for that, Pedro. That comes out, I'm like, fuck yeah, I'm not going to buy it until I fucking play it. Why would I do that? Darth Nugget says this might not convert users, but they'll still probably get sales they wouldn't have otherwise. I can see that. That's a good idea, Andreas. If at the end I get a 20% discount for the game, that sweetens the deal. That's a really good idea. Hoodrich says this was on PS3. They had 60-minute game demos. Right, but Hoodrich, am I missing your chat? What games were they? Was it day one? Was it week one? That's all I'm trying to figure out, because I know, like I said, they've had rentals, and I know they've had trials, but I recall it being more like it's PS3 and this is Tokyo Jungle. And Tokyo Jungle came out a year ago. Was this like day one? Maybe this factors into Sony's plan, says Peapod, to make long AAA games so they can demo the first 6 hours without giving away too much. Probably not. Because ultimately then at that point, if you're building your whole business model around long games that convert in the first 6 hours, you have to front load the fuck out of 6 hours. And making 6 hours super fucking compelling is expensive and hard as fuck. And so I can't imagine they're going to bet the farm on the theory that they're going to get all game developers to make the first 6 hours brilliant. Hoodrich says, I played a game trial for Far Cry, but it wasn't day one, says Rathy. Gotcha. Okay, thank you guys. Aaron, welcome to the Diet Soda Soldiers. Aaron Kaminsky of the Philadelphia Kaminskys. You're the family with that great Christmas display, right? Where Santa comes down the chimney and then fucks Mrs. Claus. I love that. Kaminsky, you're good people. Here, have a smoke at the pipe, buddy. Thank you so much for being part of our Diet Soda Soldier community. Smoke that dope, baby. Smoke it, take it in good. Take it into your lungs and feel like a goddamn king that you are, sir. Aaron Kaminsky. Thank you, sir. Kills on Fire says, encourages impulse buys too. If I'm halfway through a very good Returnal run, Lord knows I'd cave. That's interesting. You're goddamn right. Yeah, if you can't fucking save it, because you can't with Returnal, but even if you can't, I mean, that's some fucking tricksy manipulation, but it's not a bad idea. It's not a goddamn bad idea. Where it's just like not even Returnal. If you're like 6 hours into a game, although I think it does say if you buy the game your saves will transfer. But I think that if you don't buy the game, then you have to start all over again if you buy it later. So I think it's, I agree. That's certainly going to be a sweetener to it for sure. Game trials will only increase sales, says Zach. The player looking forward to Uncharted 5 is already buying it. This is for players that play Call of Duty and Madden. Okay. I mean, yes, Zach, you're right in the sense that if you assume, okay, there's the people who are already going to buy it. Let's scratch them off the list. Go with God to those people. They keep a lot of the business going, at least in the front end. But then you've got two types of people. I'm probably never going to buy it, or I'm thinking about buying it, right? Then the real question is, are you willing to risk those people converting on their own or through word of mouth? Like I converted through word of mouth on Death Stranding. I never bought it before. But I have an 80% assumption that I'm not going to like it. And I wouldn't convert if I played it for 6 hours. So I guess it's a risk of how players are going to respond, which is probably why they're doing the fucking test, Jaffe. Jaffe, isn't creating a playable demo taxing? Yes, but that's not what this is. I don't even imagine the developers have to do anything except maybe plug in kind of a meta to track the time, but that's probably happening on the back end on the Sony server side. So my guess is they probably have nothing to do with it. But these are not demos. These are like, you better, I mean, seriously, I mean, let's say this takes off. We're going to move on, I promise. But let's say this takes off. And let's say Game Pass takes off. Again, I know this is going to be so great for game design, right? Because at that point, game developers are going to be forced to make sure that their openings, and not just their openings, but their kind of their whole initial loop for the first handful of hours, that it's like no more of this. Well, you got to wait for 12 hours before it gets good. It's like, no, it's going to force game developers to do what musicians have to do, authors have to do, filmmakers, television creators have to do, which is you've got to catch your audience and hook them almost immediately, or they're going to move on to something else. I think that's fucking fantastic. It makes games better. Darth Nugget says this might be a better alternative to Steam's return policy. I'm sure they refund tons of people, whereas Sony won't even. I mean, that's a good point. That's a great point. I hate Sony's return policy. That's one of the reasons I still buy a lot on Steam. There's a multiplayer game that just came out for console called Insurgency Sandstorm, says Eddie C. It's very good, and I'm afraid it will be overshadowed by Call of Duty and Battlefield. This feature would help it a lot. Oh my God, absolutely. All those games, even if you're just sitting around going, I got nothing new to play, you're going to try shit. I think it's great. I love it. I hope it takes off. We'll see what happens. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Big Bad God of War. I only want to talk about this story. Well, for one reason. I mean, the core story is Chris Judge, the actor who plays Kratos in the new God of Wars, says it was delayed because of him. According to the actor voicing Kratos and also the performance capture, it was delayed, I think, because he had he had to have knee implants and he threw his back out or blah, blah, blah. Is that true? Is it not? Who the fuck? Probably. I mean, I don't know. I'm sure that played a part. The two things that strike me as interesting about this story, though, are one of them that's interesting to me is this idea that if you're rushing to make production, like for some reasons, like I know I have no inside dirt, and if I did, I wouldn't share it. But something strikes me as weird about that narrative. It kind of reminds me when Amy Hennig said back in the day when she worked for Sony, we'll never make another Uncharted without Nolan North. And that just always struck me as very performative, because it's like, sure you will. If the deal on the table doesn't make sense, trust me, sure you will. The brand is more powerful than Nolan North, okay? In this case, it's not that I don't think they would bend over backwards to keep Chris Judge happy. Sure they would. But it is a little, especially that it's performance capture, it's like he could still do the voiceover, right? But if, let's say there's 3 weeks where he's out or a month when he's out and you can't reschedule his shots, then get a fucking body double. I mean, it's just one of those things that it just feels, if it is absolutely accurate, it feels kind of dumb. I don't know if it's true, but it just feels like, what, you couldn't get a big dude to go in there and just, knock out a bunch of the fucking shots? Hell, Harrison Ford threw his fucking shoulder out for Indiana Jones. They're still filming. But they're no, well, they paused now. But they were filming for a while when he was out. They literally got a real fancy top of the line face mask and put it on a stunt guy and got as many shots as they could. So I just that's a little weird. That's a little weird for me, but I'm sure there's truth to it. It might be an actor thing, Jaffe says, Brian. Sometimes you need to be in the place to do the proper voice. No. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that that's not something an actor would say, and I'm not saying that that probably wouldn't give the best performance if the actor feels that way. But you know, this is business. This is a $200+ million game probably. I don't think they're going to sit there and go, look, I know Yumi Yang. And I know some of the producers on that title. I can't imagine they said, oh, Chris Judge is out for 6 weeks. Well, what can we shoot without him? And what can we do where he's just the voice? There's something that's weird. I have no data. I'm just saying from my experience, something feels a little off about this story. It doesn't totally feel 100% authentic. I'm not saying the guy's lying. Of course, he had knee implants and a back problem and all that shit. I'm just saying something feels a little weird. Something feels a little weird. The other thing that just is annoying is the fan response. Because I had kind of forgotten about this, but this guy, the Lig X, writes on the comments to the story, a whole bunch of fucking idiots owe Alana Pierce an apology that they will never give. So, do you guys remember this, where Alana Pierce was blamed? She had just started working at Sony Santa Monica, and she was blamed for, people were literally blaming her for the reason God of War Ragnarok had been delayed. First off, I don't even think it's announced if that woman's working on Ragnarok or some other game, but let's assume it has been announced and I missed it, okay? So they're working on Ragnarok, and you've got a junior writer. It's not like Cory got hit by a bus and has to recover. It's a brand new junior writer. And I don't mean junior dismissively. I believe when she broke the news that she's working on God of War, she called it that, right? So I'm like, what moron would assume that a junior writer or a writer at all on a title like this would be able to cause a delay? It's just, it's fucking moronic. I can read the headlines now, says Jojo D. Former God of War director finds Christopher Judge statement a little weird. It is a little weird. It's a little weird. I'm not saying it is weird. It just comes off. Well, I am saying it's weird. I'm not saying it's a lie. I'm saying it comes off as a little suspicious. It's a little suspicious. So Judge says, in my feels right now, I need to be forthcoming. This has been approved by no one. To the beloved fandom, Ragnarok was delayed because of me. August 2019, I couldn't walk. I had to have back surgery, both hips replaced, and knee surgery. It's the Bionic Man. They waited for me to rehab. Really? They waited. The $200 million production waited for. Something's not right. Something's not sitting right about this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Christopher Judge is not a man worth waiting for at all, let alone in this role. I'm not suggesting that at all. But the idea that it's like we can't move forward, or we're going, maybe they were like, here's what probably happened. It was probably them sitting down and going, well, we were going to ask for a push anyway. We can't get all this done. If we wait 4 months for Chris, that's going to allow us to hire these 3 more people we've been looking for and get a little bit more of the design done, blah, 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 blah. But I just, something's not totally clean about this. Jaffe says, Eddie C., what would you have done if TC Carson came out and said the game was delayed because he was sick or injured? Here's what I would do. If I sat in a meeting with Sony in Santa Monica and we felt tactically, strategically, public relations-wise, it made sense to sell this narrative, whether it's totally true, not true at all, or somewhat true, then I would sell the narrative because I would do what's best for the game, just like I lied to you guys and said we weren't making Twisted Metal. That's okay. But in that case, I'm just telling you, though, because I'm not at the moment employed to sell you the narrative of the spin of the PR. I'm telling you that this feels a little weird. Doesn't mean it is. I don't know. Just feels a little weird. Ratchet, thank you, sir. He says if it's rehab, he will have been out for months. Right. So think about that. You're going to delay God of War. Let's say it was months. Let's say, because that's a lot of work, right? back surgery, both hips replaced, and knee surgery. Then you got to rehab that shit to a point that you can be a physical actor again. What are we talking? 6 months? You're going to delay the whole game for 6 months because of that? I don't think so. I think you're going to get a new voice actor, or you're going to get Chris Judge to be the voice actor, and you're going to hire a body double, and maybe you'll have Chris Judge on the set giving him physical direction, but there's no goddamn way. There's no goddamn way. Drive-by Joe, thank you, buddy. He says, so he's the reason we have the same boat animation. I don't know if that's true. Probably not. Joe D, you're right. I don't think people stopped working at Santa Monica because Chris Judge had surgery. No, I don't think the whole production shut down. But did it shut down enough that it was delayed? Come on. It's possible. It's possible that they made the case to the powers that be, but that's an interesting story. All right, let's move on. I just want to talk briefly about this. I'm stunned and staggered, and I want to talk about it. Member flex, bitch, says Avarelli. Avarelli, just for the flex, you get a little smoke of the dope. There you go, buddy. There's some dope for you, sir. Take it in, baby. Okay, listen to me. I don't have a solve for this, and it may not even need to be solved. It's just interesting to me. So it's less about this story, but this story is what got me thinking. So remember Second Extinction? Second Extinction has been in early access on Steam for quite a while. It was a day one drop when it came out on Xbox Game Pass, and it's basically Left 4 Dead with dinosaurs, okay? And I thought when I heard about it, I was just like, this is fucking, what a great idea, Left 4 Dead, but instead of zombies, it's dinosaurs. And we played it a little bit on game night. It was good. It clearly wasn't enough to bring us back. None of us were like, let's play Second Extinction some more. So I kind of forgot about it. And then today there's news that they're dropping like a bunch of new stuff for it, modes and weapons or what have you, right? It's also the same day where I realized that Steam Next Fest is starting, right? And so I was going through and I downloaded like 20 games that I will be playing this weekend. I may very well play tonight. But as you go through it, you realize like these are all demos for games that are upcoming, right? And it's over 700. Like you just go and go and go. And if you're listening and you're not watching, just trust me when I tell you that looks cool. It is just constant. It is a constant fucking waterfall of new games, right? It's really fun. If you have a PC, I highly recommend it. This is like, I've said this many times before, this is like the digital version of going to E3 back when E3 was new, and everything, you didn't know what you were going to see whenever you walked around the show. I'm looking at all of this and I'm just going, I don't know how this industry is going to be able to sustain at any level. I don't just mean the level of AAA, like when you hear Sean Layden talking. I just look at the amount of content that is competing for people's time, and I don't understand how 95% of these developers aren't going to just fade away. Because people say, oh well, see, that's the thing, it's just going to cheapen games and stuff. It's just like anything else though. The easier something gets to make, the more you have of it. And it does become harder to stand out. I mean, I think you see it with music. You see it with every other medium. I was stunned because I thought about this and I thought about the Second Extinction. I don't know, man. I mean, it's almost to the point now, and you look at like all the Roblox shit that's happening and people making their own games and shit. And it's just like, you look at it and you go, other than just as a hobby, and maybe if you take off, like it's almost like you would say to somebody now, if you want to go into video games and be like a creative force, you have a similar chance as you do making it big in film as an actor or a director as a movie or whatever, because there's too much to play. Like, how can you even compete when I remember we put out Twisted Metal and Warhawk on the same day in October of 95, and it was competing with maybe 4 other games that you could buy or 5 other games that you could buy. Whoever has the most day one or high paying customers will be the only one standing in the end, says Brian King. Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying the industry will collapse. I'm sure there will be winners, but there's going to be a lot of fucking losers. It's kind of, I don't complain because I get to benefit as a player, but like, just look at some of this. Like, Tail Quest Defense. Clearly a little bit of money was spent on this. It looks nice, got a nice logo. Clearly it's made by more than one person, I assume. how's this going to do well? Tail Quest Defense is a unique mix of tower defense and 3D puzzle platformer. Help defend a vivid world from an invasion of colorful robots. I mean, I'm sure it might be great, but it looks very generic. Been there, done that. I just don't understand how this. I don't get it sustainable. I don't get it. I want to get this super chat real quick before I forget it. I appreciate it, John Doe. Thank you so much. He says, how close are you and Cory when you guys were working together? You know what, man? I mean, not close. We weren't enemies or anything, but I other than a few people, I guess, and I'm not going to name them because people might feel left out, but other than a handful of people, most people on the God of War team, I had a very... it's not cold is not the right word, but we weren't like, we didn't go out to lunch together, right? And some of that is the job. I've often said that being a game director is probably the loneliest job on a team, or being in any kind of creative authority position, because, you know, if you really want to do that job well, you have to get real comfortable disappointing people. And a lot of times going out to lunch with your colleagues is bitching about the people at work who are telling you shit to do that you don't agree with. So Cory, when he was on God of War, we were always friendly, and I liked him very much, and I respected the crap out of him and his abilities, but I wouldn't say we ever went to the movies together or anything. And then by the time God of War 2 rolled around, it was professional ranking. That would be the way I would suggest it. Now, there were people on the team I was very close to, but not the vast majority of them. In the Israeli army, we call it distance, like a commander maintains distance from his soldiers. Yeah, I mean, in my case, it wasn't conscious. It just kind of, you know, that's how I was treated, and I treated others, and that was the ramifications. And I was fine with it, because I've known a number of games that have fallen apart where the leads want to be pals with everybody and liked, and that shit never works. I've told this story before, but Shannon relayed to me that when we first gave Cory the position on God of War 2, he first came to Shannon, who was the producer, and said, I'm going to do it different. You know, Jaffe was great, but Jaffe kind of, you know, kept everyone at arm's distance, and he had a very specific thing that he wanted, and I do too, but I'm going to be more of an inclusive team guy. And she's like, okay. And then apparently, according to Shannon anyway, he came back to her about a month later and said, okay, I get it now. You can't do that. Like, you can't be a creative director, and it doesn't mean you can't be nice. I think Cory was always more liked at the studio than I was, because he's just a more affable guy. But you can't be that kind of guy and still do the job well. I don't think. But, you know, maybe if Sony PR ever lets Cory come on, we'll have that conversation. We're going to talk about people who have died playing video games, and I'm going to tell you my favorites. I'm going to tell you the ones that are the oddest, because a lot of you guys know the ones about people who sit too long in internet cafes and they get, like, you know, blood clots and all that stuff, and those are terrible. Those are terrible. But these are more interesting ways to go. This is a story of, this is interesting. I'm just going to tell you I like it. I like the story. Mutant says, someone said in the chat once they raced against a ghost in a car game that was a dead friend. Well, I don't know about that, but there is a story that was on Kotaku way back in the day, which was actually quite a beautiful story about a guy who found his father's, might have been Forza, I don't know what game it was, but it was his father's ghost race that was still on the hard drive. And so he was able to go home and play the game and race against his dad. And his dad had obviously long since died. Okay, this story is two guys are playing. They're two friends, and they get into a competition for a game called Legend of Mir 3. It's avatars in that game that use these giant broadswords. Broadswords. Interesting, Jaffe. They won a rare dragon saber together, like a virtual one in the game. And one of the friends let the other friend use it first, but instead of using it in the game, he sold it for $870. It was a virtual item. And the friends got pissed at each other, and the one friend who didn't sell it ended up stabbing his friend in the chest with, quote, great force, and he died right there on the spot. That is the first weird death attributed to video games that I know. Listen to this one. Before Pokemon Go, Niantic Labs developed an addictive game called Ingress. Within the world, two different factions are fighting for freedom. Players have to go to different real-life locations to gain levels and become stronger. A teen in Brazil was an avid player. He loved going to play the game, and his mom warned him several times to be careful. Unfortunately, he didn't listen to the warnings. On his way to capturing a gray-colored portal for his faction, he crossed a busy street without looking both ways, and he was struck by a bus and killed. Think about that. We're getting into the Halloween season, folks. Hold on to your neighbors. Hold on to your fucking neighbors. EverQuest. Listen to this one. This one's sad. Fuck you, Hoodrich. Hoodrich says that wasn't weird. Was it weird? No. Was it creepy and sad? Yeah. I want you to think about it, Hood. Think about that, Hood. Imagine your last moment on Earth and you're just sitting there looking for a fucking Pokemon. It's like, oh, look, it's a fucking Pikachu. Boom. Like, do you even know it's over? Do you even know it's over? Hoodrich. Right? Come on now. EverQuest. It's a fantasy. We know what EverQuest is. You don't need to tell you. But there's a guy, Sean Woolley, had ADD, and epilepsy, and found comfort in the game. He became so addicted to the game that he neglected his family, quit his job. He moved back home. His mom noticed he had seizures after playing the game for an extended period. His mom tried to send him to a group home to get help, but he left. He purchased a gun and locked himself in his room. His mom broke the lock to see Sean had shot himself, and EverQuest was still running on his computer. Killed himself while playing EverQuest. Think about that. God damn. I saw a movie the other night called, that's interesting, Mutant Mo. You get zapped into the game forever in some sort of digital spiritual merging. Right. What if that was like an urban myth and all these kids were doing that in front of their computers to go live in the world of Minecraft or some such shit? That'd be horrible. Listen to this one. This is the first recorded video game death. This one is not spooky, but it is fucking weird and coincidental as fuck. When I was a kid, Berserk was out in the arcades. It was the first game I recall, I think it predated Sinistar, that talked, right? So it would say things like, ha, 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 run, human, all this shit. Well, listen to this. Berserk is the first video game known to have a player die while playing it. In the early 80s, a young high school punk, I added that to make him sound cool, a young high school student named Jeff Daly entered an arcade in Illinois to play Berserk. He made the top 10 list twice within 15 minutes. After entering his name, he collapsed, dying of a heart attack. Okay, that's bad and tragic, but if that was the story, you'd be like, why are you reading me? It sucks. High school kid. It's weird he died of a heart attack, probably had a condition, but listen to this. Berserk would later take the life of Daly's best friend, Peter Brakowski. The game had been too much excitement for Brakowski too, I guess, who had scar tissue on his heart. Playing Berserk was too much strain. They both died. Two best friends died of playing the goddamn Berserk. Think about that. Last one I'm going to share with you is the strangest one, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, listen to this. Binge playing games for charity is a popular thing to do. It's a good thing to do, but Twitch streamer and father of three Brian Vignal often played for hours. This time he was playing World of Tanks for 24 hours straight. His friends noticed he didn't seem very well at the 22-hour mark, and he got up to take a cigarette break. His fans watching the stream noticed that he never came back, and they grew worried. He had collapsed outside his house and died of a heart attack. After hours of inactivity, a Twitch mod messaged Vingalt on the Discord to check on him. A Virginia Beach detective responded on Discord informing the moderator that he had died. That would be like watching Ninja. And he says, I got to go pee. And he gets up to go pee, and that's the last you ever see of him. And then like 2 hours later, oh yeah, he died, man. That guy died. Think about it. Happy Halloween. Let's move on. I want to talk about this really quickly. Marvel, and this only relates to games in as much as that people hit me up this week specifically because the Twisted Metal story broke about, oh, Jaffe, why aren't you involved in Twisted Metal, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people that assume I own the rights to Twisted Metal. And I'm like, I always say, no, I was work for hire. I was an employee of Sony. They paid me really well. Insurance was great. I got wonderful bonuses. It was a great company to work with and for. But no, I was work for hire. I was an employee. And so, as much as I would love to own Twisted Metal, and like I said to somebody online the other day, I feel emotionally I own Twisted Metal, and Scott and Kellen and the team that made it own it. Legally, none of us are walking around thinking that we own it. So even if Twisted Metal or God of War goes on to become the next big movie sensation and PlayStation Productions becomes the new MCU and God of War and Twisted Metal happen to be their crown jewels, I would still love to own some of it, but I'm not going to basically go to court and be like, wah. Again, and I've been looking for this because I'm assuming that there's more to it than this. Like maybe there's, but this is Jack Kirby did it and it was kicked out of court twice. Steve Ditko's estate is doing it now, who created Spider-Man with Stan Lee and Doctor Strange. You've also got Stanley Lieber. No, not Stan Lieber. Stan Lieber is Stan Lee, and his brother's name is Larry Lieber, who was a writer. He's also suing. And it's like, guys, unless, and I've read like 3 books about the history of Marvel, unless this is like there's something that you were promised that the court isn't, or that we haven't seen come up in the complaints, it's like, why do you think you're owed anything? It would be nice, but again, maybe Stan Lee promised him something. I have no idea. Yes, Stan Lee's brother is Bruce Lee. Star says this is different, I think, since you worked under Sony to create something. Or did you go to Sony with the concept and they hired you? No, I worked for Sony when I created these concepts. Just like, similarly here, like the history of Spider-Man, like my understanding is Kirby, believe it or not, was the first one to propose Spider-Man, right? So like Kirby and Joe Simon created Captain America outside of Marvel. So Marvel had to figure out how to get the rights to that character. But when they did Doctor Strange or Spider-Man or all that, that was done under the eye of you are doing this for Marvel Comics, right? So no, I don't understand unless there's data that hasn't come out or I just haven't seen why these people would be suing. And a lot of and so Marvel's suing them back and saying, I don't know what the suit looks like, but it's basically, I think, trying to shut them up and say, you can't get our copyrights. Sorry. Which, unless there's new data that comes out, I think that makes total fucking sense. All right. We're going to talk about the Chinese folks. This story is only new in the sense that there's more details. We've known about this. This is the same thing where China came out and said, we're going to limit playtime to kids to only weekends for 2 hours. We don't want effeminate people in our games, blah, blah, blah. So again, this is where we're getting a little bit more specifics. This is from the old Gama Sutra called Game Developer Now, from Chris Kerr. This is where we're getting some more specifics about it. I just want to read you some of the actual quotes from this thing. It's a memo, a leaked memo from an internal training course that China's state-backed game association put developers through, okay? And it gives them their set of values that you need to follow, okay? The memo reminds developers that games are no longer being viewed as pure entertainment, and as such must provide what the state views as an accurate depiction of China's history and culture. Okay, any titles seen to be encouraging violence, gambling, or superstition are unlikely to be approved, while regulators have also issued rigid guidance when it comes to how moral choices and gender are presented. Some games, this is quote, some games have blurred moral boundaries. Players can choose to be good or evil, but we don't think games should give players this choice, says the memo, and this must be altered. If regulators can't tell the character's gender immediately, the setting of the characters could be considered problematic and red flags will be raised, it continues. And it goes on a little bit more. It talks about, restrictions and things like that. So what's interesting about this is that we've seen, look, I don't care what the fuck they do in China. I mean, I do when it comes to things like, the Uyghurs and stuff, but look, it's your country, do with it what you want. But the idea, though, that we have become so beholden to China in movies and TV and now video games, I would just hate to see, in order to make our games go in China, we're getting censored as well in America. It's like, well, we were going to do this really horror supernatural game, but that's not going to fly in China. right? Or, oh, we were going to do this game where, it's a new Star Wars game where you can be darker or light Jedi. Nah, we're not going to do that either. I don't know, man. We've seen so far from video games publishers, other than the brave ones that what are they called? Who put out Detention and Devotion, Red Table Games, I think. They said, "Fuck it, we'll put it out on our own." But other than them, you've seen a lot of these companies, bow down to the People's Republic of China and give them what they want. So I don't know, man. We already see the news that Blizzard is going through making all these changes to posters in World of Warcraft and whatnot, and some of the cards in Hearthstone, so they're not offensive. Now, a lot of people had assumed that was because of sort of SJW stuff in here in America, but I'm starting to wonder. So, it wouldn't surprise me if this is simply another example of a company like Activision just sort of acquiescing to China. I want to talk about a game. It is not a video game. No, I know a lot of kids today don't really grow up watching game shows anymore. That's fine. Whatever. You got to do what you got to do. But the Price is Right. Price is Right if you don't. It's about games, not a video game. So it's tuck in, bitches. I know it's not a video game. Just listen. It's interesting. It'd be good for you. Price is Right was a show that was Bob Barker. Now I think it's Drew, whatever that guy's name is, Drew somebody. Basically, it's about how, do you know what things cost? Here's a microwave oven from Zenith, whatever. What do you think it's worth? And somebody will say, it's $183. And if somebody guesses closer to the price, it's $140, whatever. Okay. So this show's been running forever. And there's a story, Drew Carey, there you go. Thank you, Eddie. Why are people getting worse at The Price is Right? They're getting worse at guessing prices. I thought this was interesting. I saw this headline come across my thing, and I said, well, I need to know the answer to that, because that's weird. Why would people be getting worse at The Price is Right? You'd think they'd be getting better at it. They have more access to data and information, and yet they're not doing as well. Here's the 3 reasons this paper came up with why people are doing worse with The Price is Right. First, inflation in the U.S. was higher and much less stable in the 80s and 70s. When inflation's high and variable, people become more attentive to prices because they notice they're paying more for things than ever before. Interesting. So number 1 was inflation. Number 2, the rise of e-commerce may have made people less sensitive to the price. Research by the economist Alberto Cavallo of the Connecticut Cavallos finds that online competition has made prices more similar. Online competition has made prices more similar across sellers, online and off. As a result, people may feel less of a need to do price comparisons. That's interesting. The last one. Third, there are more products than ever. There are 50 times as many products at a grocery store now than 80 years ago, according to economist James Besson. Rather than compete on price, companies increasingly try to differentiate their products in other ways. This also might make it harder for the Price is Right contestants, along with the rest of us, to know how much stuff costs. So there you go. If you're ever going to go on The Price is Right, you should study up, because in the 70s, the typical guess was 8% below the actual price. In 2010s into 2020, people underestimated the price of items on The Price is Right by more than 20%. More than 20%. Let's play The Price is Right real quick. I'm going to look something up off screen. The first person to tell me the price wins. I got no prizes today, but let's just see who can do it. All right, here we go. This is, I want you to tell me the price of what I'm about to describe. Okay, you ready? This refrigerator, I'm going to take out the name of it so you can't Google it, but it's a refrigerator. Okay, so close your eyes and focus to what I'm saying. This refrigerator has a Keurig K-Cup brewing system. It got top marks for temperature maintenance and uniformity. It also wowed our appliance lab experts with its smart design features. Top-of-the-line fridge, plus a built-in Keurig coffee maker in the door. It's Wi-Fi enabled, so after you download the app, you can adjust settings, preheat water for coffee, get alerts if the door is open. It works with Amazon Echo as well. I'm going to show you a picture of it just so you guys can get a sense of sort of the quality of it real quick, but I'm going to make sure you don't see the price. 1 second. So I will now look to the chat. I want to see the first person who gets close but doesn't go over. Oh my God, you guys are so bad at this. Spaz, no. I'm going to give you 10 more guesses. Novodamus, no. The winner, I almost gave to JoJo D, but it goes to Zachy Howell. Series, this is the GE Profile Series French door refrigerator. It'll cost you $2,879. So there you go. I wouldn't have known what the fuck this thing cost. I would have guessed $5,000. I don't fucking know what a fridge costs. You know, that's ladies' work. Oh my God, Jaffe. I'm just kidding, of course. Okay. Satan's Enigma, a 17th century letter written by a nun, was finally using computers, was deciphered. And I want to tell you what it said. So this was a woman. She was a 31-year-old nun back in, living in a convent, 1676. And she was given these fits of, lunacy. Going nuts, yelling, screaming every single night. One night, she has a particularly rough night, and she starts scrawling all this shit down on a piece of paper. This is what it looks like. If you're looking at your screen, if you're not, it's just this parchment filled with Greek letters and, what did they say? It was a blend of Greek shorthand symbols from different languages, Greek, Latin, Runic, and Arabic. And so they ran it through a computer and figured out what it said. And they couldn't translate a lot of it, but what they did translate, it says the following. It said, the message describes God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirits as dead weights. It says that the Holy Trinity are dead weights, and it goes on to say that God thinks he can free mortals, but that system works for no one. Perhaps now Styx, like the river Styx, is certain. That's it. That's all we know. I'm going to accidentally summon Beelzebub. Hey, fine with me. I don't really believe in any of that. But the devil's dumb. If the devil was actually real, I want you to think about that for a minute. If the devil were actually real, he wouldn't do what he does. He would be like, I'm not going to present man with demons and scary things because they know it's the devil. They'd be like, I'm going to present man with all this nice shit that preys on their weaknesses, but summoning Beelzebub or a Baphomet, wherever it's called. All right. That's Gabbing Games for Friday, October 1st. Happy Halloween season. I will be back but 2 or 3 times streaming this weekend. A lot of video games to play. Hot Wheels, the Halo beta, all the new Steam demos are out. I still want to get more Kenna gameplay time. So I probably will be smoking pot and playing some of the games tonight, so I'll send out a tweet as I want to do. But in the meantime, thank you, fellas. Thank you to the new members. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate it.
Oh, that's strange. It tastes like...